This is Polyamory Weekly, tales from the front of responsible non-monogamy from a pansexual, kink-friendly point of view. A warning for our under-18 listeners. This is an adult-oriented podcast about really lascivious things, like communication and honesty in relationships. If you're under 18 and looking for upfront advice and answers to questions about sex, please visit scarletteen.com.
This is Polyamory Weekly, episode 498 for December 22nd, 2016. Coming up on today's show, help me out with compersion. That's coming up on today's show. Hello, everyone. I am your host, Minx, and I bet you thought we were going to do a holiday-themed show this year. I mean, we've done them in the past, right? We've done Pimp My Boobs, which was a lot of fun. Always very fun. We did that a couple of years. We've done Poly for the Holidays episodes, where we brought partners and family members in to talk about being poly for the holidays. But this year, I'm actually going to ask you to help me out with compersion. No, not my own compersion. I feel that all the time. But Compersion, the new Black and Poly web series. We have a kick-ass interview with the creator of Compersion, the web series, along with two of the cast members talking about their experience with it. And I got to tell you, there were some big surprises for me in this interview. I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but I learned a thing or two. I had made some assumptions that were incorrect. But first, one quick announcement. You probably heard in the last week or two that we are going to be speaking at RelateCon, but what you might not know is that RelateCon has generously offered a discount to Polyweekly listeners. If you go to relatecon.org and purchase your ticket, if you enter the code POLYWEEKLY at checkout, you will get a discount. But wait, there's more. That's right. They are not only giving all Polyweekly listeners a discount, they are also giving away a free pass to this event, which, by the way, March 31st through April 2nd. How are you entered to win for the free pass, you ask? Well, I made a post on Facebook, and I will provide a link to that in the show notes at polyweekly.com. All you need to do is comment on the Facebook post saying why it is that you want to go to RelateCon. Before December 31st, leave your comment on that post before December 31st, and you'll be entered to win a complimentary pass to RelateCon that first weekend in April. How easy is that? It's super easy. Without further ado, I want to jump right into this interview we did with Jackie Stone, the creator of Compersion, the web series, along with two of the actors, Jamie and Derek, who play the leads. And I am absolutely thrilled to have in the studio, well, on Skype, with me today, the producer, director, and part of the cast of Compersion. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, let me do some individual introductions. First of all, we're starting with Jackie Stone, who holds an MFA from New York University's Tisch School of the Arts. And her films have screened at the Cannes Short Film Corner, Chicago International Film Festival, American Black Film Festival, Durango International Film Festival, HBO Network's Tallahassee Film Festival, and the California African American Museum, among others. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for making Compersion. We'll talk about that more in just a minute. Next, let me introduce Jamie Patton, who plays Keena Prescott. She graduated with honors from Howard University's BFA program, where she majored in theater, minored in radio, television, film production. She has directed and produced several short films, documentaries, and music videos. And there's so much more to go into. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you for having me.
And finally, we have Derek Lamont, who plays Joshua Prescott. Derek was born and raised in Marianna, Arkansas, earned a bachelor's degree in business administration at Southern Arkansas, but then saw the light and followed his passion to act. Followed the light, the passion, not the wallet, and then moved to New York after graduation to train at Circle in the Square Theater School. Welcome, Derek.
Thank you. Thank you, Mix.
Let me start out by asking Jackie a question. So you had a choice of any number of topics that you could have chosen for a web series. Why did you pick polyamory?
I met someone many, many years ago, a decade ago, or maybe over a decade ago, who was interested in dating me, who was in a polyamorous marriage. And it was the first time I'd ever heard that term polyamory. And I was like, well, what is that? What does that mean? And from that, meeting that man, I was like, it's an interesting and new take on a love story for me. Because often the only stories that I was used to seeing of people who had more than one person romantically was stories about having affairs, but never about having the permission or the openness to say, you know what, I'm feeling for this person and let's make that work. And not only having sex with that person, but you're meant to have a long-term relationship or a love. And for me, that was just blew my mind of thinking of how I could create a television series where just love expands and expands and expands and pushes boundaries and makes people think about different ways you can build your relationship.
That makes it sound like this was a thought project. So I kind of want to be super nosy and ask you and everyone else too, what your personal relationship orientation is. Let's start with Jackie.
I am monogamous and looking, but I mean, me and Jamie had me and Jamie were having conversations. We had our own Q&A, and I was saying that, in many respects, I have somewhat of a polyamorous heart in terms of the friendships that I have with my guy friends that are very intense. Not sexually involved, but we are heavily emotionally involved. And I've always had these type of relationships since I was, a teenager, where I have tons of guy friends that from the outside looking in, people would assume that we are boyfriend and girlfriend. And I've never, created these boundaries of saying, no, we can't hang out together, or we can't cuddle together, or we can't cry with each other, or you can't call me at 12 o'clock at night to discuss your most intimate personal feelings. So in that respect, I think I have a little poly affection bent towards me.
It's polyamory without the sex.
I like it.
I mean, Derek could attest. Me and Derek have a very close friendship, and I have lots of these very intense close friendships where we fight like lover siblings, but we just haven't made it to the point of where it's a sexual relationship, but it's still very intense and it's love based, where people find those relationships uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's what we like to call intimate friendships, or even, I sometimes use the term anchor partner, who is somebody that I rely on and someone who gets me. And for me, it's very often ex-boyfriends, like somebody that we still love each other, but we're not in like a romantic relationship anymore. So the others aren't off the hook. So Jamie, would you care to disclose your relationship orientation?
I've been curious about polyamory, and I've been told that I function as a polyamorous person, but I plead the fifth.
Okay, fair enough.
Especially when Jackie brought this project to me, I said, well, maybe there is something, because I've had more than one person say to me, oh, you'd be great for a role like that. Or, yeah, I could see you doing that. I think because I'm such a free spirit and loving and affectionate and touchy-feely. But when I try to think about being in a polyamorous relationship, my ego kicks in.
Oh, yeah.
I get jealous. I get jealous. I've stalked Facebook pages. I've stalked Instagrams, trying to find out what's going on with this ex, or this supposed to be friend, But that's why I have so much respect for people who are polyamorous. And it's not something that they're forcing. This is natural for them. They get enjoyment from seeing their, partner in a loving, intimate relationship. I don't get that. I want to slash your tires. So, no, I'm not.
But Jamie, Jamie, what's interesting is that I know polyamorous people who are polyamorous who are not so filled with compersion. So that's not a prerequisite. The slashing the tires thing, not slashing the tires might be, but.
And me, see, I'm trying to figure out what is the benefit in that. Okay, so you're polyamorous, but you don't experience compersion. So what is the benefit?
That's an excellent question. There are a lot of poly people who, and the truth is, it's different for everyone, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody has their own reasons for going into polyamory.
Right.
I personally, think it should be because this is, who I am, and this works for me, as opposed to my partner's going to break up with me if I don't try it. That's generally not a very good reason.
Absolutely.
But there's definitely, if anybody tells you that poly people don't get jealous, they're a lying, cheaty liar, because we do. Now, there are certain individual polyamorous people that don't tend to get jealous, and I'm always skeptical, but I also believe that if somebody tells me their truth, I should believe them.
That's what my answer would say.
Yeah, indeed. So, Derek, what about you? Would you give us a highlight of your relationship orientation?
I'm monogamous. I try to think that I think outside of the box, but if I really get to it, I'm monogamous. This is one guy, one girl to me.
I mean, it's interesting. We don't have all the other people, I'm sorry to interrupt you, that are involved with the series to express their views on polyamory, because there are definitely people who are identify as polyamorous involved with compersion.
Well, Derek, I want to congratulate you in particular because you play... okay, so keep in mind, I haven't finished watching the entire first season. I've got a few episodes left. But so far, you play the monogamous asshole really, really well. It's
hard work. It's very hard work.
I love it. I'm watching it with my sweetie, right? So we sat down and watched a couple episodes together. And I kept saying, he really is. I mean, a lot of it's the writing, right? That you're making all the arguments that I have heard over and over again. Like, then why are we married if you're going to do this? That kind of thing. But it was just played really well. I was cringing as I was watching, but it's because you really hit everything dead on, right? That these are the kind of arguments that somebody who tries to bring polyamory into an existing long-term 15-year marriage, these are the things you're going to hear. So I thought it was very well done.
Well, thank you.
Very real. Very real.
The thing is, as an actor, when you get a role, you go and start researching and you find out what it's all about and what the situation is. And when I got the role, I started reading the script and I wanted to dive into the research of polyamory and what it's all about. But then I realized Josh doesn't know anything about it, And so I purposely didn't do any research on it just so that it didn't seep into the work.
Right.
Yeah, I just try to play it honestly as possible with my monogamous mind frame.
We did very, very well. I want to ask Jackie, though, why did you decide to make this series couple-centric? Why did you decide to start from the point of view of a couple who has been together for so long and is just now trying polyamory after 15 years?
You know what? Because I really wanted there to be a lot at stake. So I think to have a 19 or 20-year-old who doesn't have a bank account together, who are still finding themselves, who have not identified truly or solidified their long-term relationships, would have been very easy. So I really wanted to show a everyday couple, not a supermodel couple, but an everyday couple who have children, who have mortgages, who have jobs, that have been married for 15 years, and there was something at stake when you're bringing up something as new and foreign as polyamory into a marriage. And then I wanted to, because the goal of Compersion is to see this particular couple's journey into polyamory and hopefully to Compersion. So it's like finding for me, challenging situation for a traditionally minded couple to move from monogamy to polyamory. So that's why I chose this couple. And then I haven't seen anything like that.
It's true, and I think that was, it was a wise decision, right? Because there are a lot of people who have been married for a long time. It's not unusual for this to come into a stable long-term relationship. And I love that you showed the woman bringing up the idea, because people always think it's the guy who wants to have more sex. More often than not, it's the woman who's saying, "Hey, why don't we try this polyamory thing?" I love that you have the very realistic situation of the kids interrupting the intense relationship discussions, which is realistic. But was it your intent to show the classic poly mistakes that couples make when they are first introducing polyamory, like forbidding sex and enabling veto power?
Absolutely, because when we're thinking about these two, Josh and Keena, all the things that I think experienced polyamorous would advise against doing, they're going to do because they're ignorant to what polyamory is about. And when I'm writing Josh and Keena, I'm thinking about people that I know. I'm thinking about family members that I've had conversations with when I brought up, what the series is about and what I wanted to do. They were in such disbelief. First of all, they couldn't believe that Black people were polyamorous. Second of all, there's no way that this man is ever going to go for that. And if he did go for that, how would he? Because it still comes to a point of where Josh is you're my wife. These are the things that we do together. This is exclusive to us. So for me, it's even though these are classic mistakes, for them, this is how they think they should be moving forward, very cautiously with the rules. This is our marriage and we must protect this above all else. And I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know how many poly people have made these mistakes, but it's definitely for these characters, it's a journey. I don't want them to get things right until they know how to get them right. So they can't just step in to Compersion, the series, being a monogamous couple of 15 years and we know how to do this, we know how to do this, we know how to keep our egos in check, our jealousy in check, our possession in check. Oh, it's going to be great. That for me would read fake and fairy tale-esque, and I was not interested at all doing any fairy tales. I really want to get to the meat, blood, and the bones of these characters and their experience and the insecurities. And even though Josh, some people call him an asshole, I don't think he's an asshole in the slightest. I think that he has a huge ego, he's confused, he may be hurt, and he's just acting out in ways that are not the most productive. But I understand him like I understand breathing.
Right. Well, I think it's a very understandable character, right? I mean, so I call the character an asshole because the responses are a bit asshole-ish, but the truth is, it's a very typical and very common response when your partner has come to you and said, "Hey, what about poly?"
Yeah, and especially after 15 years of marriage, of being monogamous and being from that mindset, to come in and say, "Hey, I want someone different, but I want you too." It'd be different if she was I want to break up, I want a divorce because I want to deal with other people. You can understand that. But, for someone that's monogamous that just says, I love you, I really do, but I want to explore other options, other relationships. It's mind-blowing.
And I love the conversation that you have about, is it the sex? We just had great sex. Is there somebody else? That's exactly what somebody in that position would ask. It's true.
I think the great thing about the series is that it does a wonderful job of what couples sometimes miss, and that's the communication aspect of relationships. We hoard things sometimes, and so for this couple to actually be able to talk about it and discuss it, however complicated it is and difficult it is, they do talk about it.
Jamie, I wanted to ask you about this too. You talked a little bit about why you decided to do this project. Your character is incredibly well written, and I like that she's not, 100% perfectly poly. She's confused as well. How did you decide to approach this character?
Well, I have to say I didn't have to reach very far. And I'm going to be very candid here. There were times where we would have rehearsal and we're reading over the script, and I'm like, oh my goodness, Jackie, my boyfriend he's going to think you've been eavesdropping on our relationship. And Jackie had no idea. So that's how authentic the experience was for me. And I mean, I did a little bit of research. I, went online and did my YouTube videos and Wikipedia and all that. But I wanted to be like Derek in that this is new for her. She's not an expert. And I think the interesting part is seeing them fumble through it. I don't think it would be as fun to see a perfect, compersion couple and everything's. It's fun to see their faux pas. And I just use Jamie. I use Jamie. Jamie and Keena are both cake eaters to a certain extent.
I feel like I should warn the people who watch the series, and everybody should go out and watch season 1, by the way, and donate to support season 2, which we'll talk about more in a minute. But if you have done Polly for 5 minutes, you're going to cringe at a lot of what you see. Lusty Guy and I were watching together, and we're literally staring at the computer screen going, no, oh, she is not going to, oh, she did, oh, that's the wrong thing to do,
people
stop.
are like, oh, too fast. Like, people go crazy in the comments, at least the YouTube comments that I've seen. They're like, oh, what's wrong with her? She's going too fast, and Josh is an asshole. He's insensitive, and people are caught up in the emotions of it, and I believe that's what Jackie wanted, so it's doing its job.
Is that what you wanted, Jackie?
Anything that I do, I want it to be thought-provoking, and I want you to feel something. I definitely want you to feel something, and I want it to kind of spark some type of dialogue. And I really love seeing the diversity of thought and remarks and opinions. And it's just funny because I always, when people ask the question about the cringing and the conflict, I always say I don't want to do I'm not interested in doing fairy tales. I'm interested in being human above all else. So I love it. I love the fact that you cringe. I love the fact that people are cussing out the computer, want to throw a hairbrush at it. There's people who have Black and Polly. A lot of the members from Black and Polly have been our first audience because they haven't really seen a show that shows Black people trying to be polyamorous, monogamous couples, transforming their relationship to polyamory. So they've been our first audience, and to read their conversations, because they usually will post the episodes and then they'd have like 4-page Facebook conversations about the series. And there would be people that would cry and laugh and, all these things I didn't expect. Or they're like, I learned from the show what not to do. And I learned something about myself from watching this episode that I didn't expect that. But I definitely wanted people to come back from each episode with something to talk about and maybe getting them to think differently about certain things, and not necessarily saying that I'm out here trying to convert people from monogamy to polyamory. Right. That's not my goal, but my goal is to get people to thinking about there are different ways that people have relationships. And what do you think about that?
Mm-hmm. I love that. And that's one of the things, can I say, attracted to me to this as well. When I was out, and I'm back in New York now, but while I was in LA, and this is the same year, I think this is 2000, when you originally had auditions. Originally, it was a while ago. It was the same year that 12 Years a Slave came out. And I probably auditioned for 4 or 5 different slaves that year alone. And so Jackie's script was a breath of fresh air. It was like, oh, just a regular woman. This is not some archetype or, so I look for roles like that, especially for women, that's just outside the norm of what you're used to seeing, especially for Black women. You don't see this. So it's nice.
And you know what else is really surprising? And I will say this in every interview until I don't have any breath in my lungs, is that even though, like right now, compersion is very safe, it's very accessible. Now, as we go on, there's going to be some things that might be a little bit dangerous for certain people's eyes, but the amount of fear that people have of talking about it publicly, even monogamous people who have a fear of saying, oh, I watched this show, or sharing this show, has been amazing. and really opened my eyes to the fact that just an idea of relating differently is very scary and frightening.
My mother denounced the show publicly on Facebook. You saw that?
Really? She did.
She was like, "Oh no, we do not support infidelity. No." I said, "Ma, it's acting. It's acting. I don't care. It's wrong."
We could watch serial killers, but the show about
but we can't.
polyamory is like, oh no, it's too much. I can't support it. I'm like, you're not. It's been a wild ride. That's all.
It's, it always surprises me that polyamorous is societally more disruptive than a lot of other things you think should upset people. Like coming out as kinky, for example, where you're basically hitting other people or you're giving permission for someone else to hit you. I thought that would be people would have a hard time accepting that. But no, I guess there's been enough, black leather collars on TV that everybody shrugs it off and thinks it's sexy. But you say you're poly and they're not your friend anymore. Mostly because they think you're going to steal their husband or something.
You're a swinger.
Yeah, there's something very disruptive about polyamory. It's not unusual, as you have probably learned. Derek, have you had any feedback or negative backswing in that area?
No, I've received the same thing. And it's really interesting. Like, people will watch reality shows or cheating shows, the housewives of this or that, and love those shows. They're glued to the TV. Oh, and the soap operas that used to have, somebody sleeping with this person and that person and that person, and they're eating it up. But now this is a situation where polyamory is the consenting of having multiple relationships, and they're like, oh no. It's like,
What's the PC term? Consensual non-monogamy.
Exactly. Yeah,
non-monogamy.
It is funny how everybody seems to think it's okay as long as there's cheating and lying, but if it's consenting, honest adults, then whoa, you are immoral.
Yeah, and even I think swinging is more acceptable for people to say, watching a show about swinging, because it fits into a certain, whether fair or not, stereotype, right? So you'd be like, oh, they're swinging, they're out there getting it in. But talking about, well, I have a boyfriend and I'm married and I have a girlfriend as well and we're all happy. It's like, wait, what? It's just not. I mean, that whole that love thing. That
it is. It's the connection thing, because if they think, oh, it's just sex. If she's cheating, she's just cheating because of sex, but this is saying that, no, there's a relationship here. Like, I honor my girlfriend just as much as I honor my husband or wife. So people they're like, oh no, you can't serve but one God.
I was just saying, I think that Derek was saying you can't serve more than one God. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
It stems from all the dogma from religion. You have to have it must be Adam and Eve, one man, one woman, and people are so stuck in these boxes. It's not for me yet, but I love when I see an conventional couple or throuple. I love it.
Yeah, indeed. And Jamie, you actually touched on this a few minutes ago, so I'm going to be the uncomfortable white person and ask the question. Does race have anything to do with this? Jackie?
I think there are plenty of people who are white, who are Latino, who are Asian, who are just as uncomfortable with the thought of polyamory. I think they're just as uncomfortable as people who are black. I think that, one, the people who are not polyamorous and who are black have never heard of polyamory. So it is a total foreign concept, where I think maybe in certain circles of my white brothers and sisters, there may be more of a conversation about polyamory. But I would not say in all, because I still think a majority of people, at least in this country, no matter what their ethnicity, they are not well versed in polyamory. And when they do see it on TV, it's hypersexualized. It's very fun. It's usually one man and multiple women. And so it's presented in a very safe kind of, that's what I meant. One man, two women. So I think that I don't think it's just a thing about the color of one's skin. I think it goes more to the information you have, the taboo nature of saying, yes, I can love you, but I can also love this person as well. When culturally, in our culture, that's a no. Unless you're having an affair, then it's okay.
Indeed. Jamie?
Right. Exactly. I have to say, okay, growing up, I think you have to also consider Christian Baptist roots in the Deep South and all the dogma surrounding that as well. It's so complicated and so layered. It's not a very cut and dry issue. But growing up in Youngstown, Ohio, which is right outside of Cleveland, it's an old steel mill city. A lot of people came up from the South. They were, descendants of slave sharecroppers. And so it holds true today. There's polyamory in the Black community, and it's strong, and it's accepted. It's just not discussed. There are people in my family that had men who had whole other families that lived around the corner, and everyone knew. You just don't talk about it, especially in a small town like Youngstown. The population is 50,000 people. You had to be careful because you might end up dating your cousin and not realizing it. This is very... It is.
Yeah.
You don't talk about it. It's very normal. And since I've been doing this web series, I've had a lot of conversations with friends and cousins, and they're like, "Yep, so-and-so and so-and-so got the same father." It's so because, and a lot of people say this is a stereotype still today, that a lot of Black men had been taken away from their families and incarcerated and, succumbed to drug addictions. So I didn't really share a man because the pickings were slim. I mean, you can debate that either way, but that's what a lot of my older aunties would say. It was like, oh yeah, as long as he didn't show up with her in a place, I'm okay with it. As long as she, they don't disrespect me in my face, that I'm okay with it. So yeah, I think it's very prevalent in the Black community. People just don't talk about it.
Derek, did you have any thoughts?
No.
Just let the women talk for you. Okay.
But, I also think, but here's the thing, and I think it speaks to Jamie's point of it being acceptable when men may have another partner. But the idea of a woman saying, I want to have another partner, people's heads really want to explode. Like, I've spoken to who are even, I feel is more evolved intellectually. One of my friends, he was like, I can't believe it's the woman. Like, I don't know. I feel weird that it's the woman. I would understand if it's the man. Why would you understand if it's the man? Does that woman not have desires? Do you think that even if you're a monogamous woman, you could be with the same person for 50 years? That doesn't mean you don't desire somebody else as a woman. Like, we have these really small boxes, I think, that we like to put women in and tape up the box and ship them away. It's like, no, but it would be a totally different story if it was these women in Ohio with, 3 different boyfriends or, mates. It's, but like you say, there is something that's more acceptable about a man going out and having these relationships, not wanting to call it polyamory, but don't bring it in my face. As long as you don't bring it in my face, it's fine.
But it is what it is. Whatever
tell.
label you put on it. Yeah. They say that what's the statistic? There 4 or 5% of the population in the United States are in polyamorous relationships. They say it's like 4 or 5 million people that are in consensual non-monogamous relationships in the United States. 5 million people. That's a lot of people, right?
Yeah. I've heard the estimate. It's really difficult to get numbers to back it up, but there are definitely signs that polyamory is growing, is definitely on the rise, or at least people who are aware of what it is and that they are doing it.
Or has always been around and
it has always been around.
Always been around. We just don't want to.
Hey, Jackie, I wanted to ask you what have you learned from this experience so far?
That an ideal is dangerous. People find ideals to be dangerous. The playing ground for me to be thought-provoking and engaging is incredibly large. When I first came into filmmaking, I wanted to do things that created safe spaces for women of color where they could be fully actualized beings in stories that we normally don't see them in, and that there's still a need for that. Even though we have more and more Black women in front of the camera, there's still a need for that, and that my stories can touch people.
Jamie, same question. What have you learned from this experience so far?
Well, I want to say, as a performer, my background is in theater. I grew up in the theater since I was 7 years old. I've been taking classes at the Youngstown Playhouse. So it's really informed my acting on camera. So it's really helped inform my acting on a technical level. It's been a great exercise to be able to see myself on camera every other week. I mean, this has been one of the best acting classes. So that's been awesome. Cool. Learning about myself and my isms. And also that this storytelling stuff is it's not easy. This is definitely a collaborative effort, and the energy trickles down from the top. So if your producer has the energy to push through, and she's the writer and the director and doing craft services, then damn it, you need to get on it too. So that's been awesome. That's been a motivator. Like when Jackie hits me up and it's like, I need you to do this interview, I'm like, oh man, I'm working 12 hours a day and I got to do a self-tape. But I know Jackie's been editing till 4 or 5 in the morning and making phone calls for, the Indiegogo campaign. So let me pull it together. So yeah, it's helped me tap into my collaborative process a lot more too. So, yeah. Excellent.
Derek, what have you learned from this experience?
Nothing. No, it's been really interesting and listening to some of the comments and reading some of the comments. Initially, I didn't. Jackie was like, you need to read the comments. You need to read the comments. They're cracking up. But in the comments, I know that there's, information about the polyamory. And there's another thing, too, because my sister told me, she said, someone said to her that if you swim in their compliments, you'll drown in their criticism. So I try to steer clear from reviews and all that stuff. I just do the work, put it out there.
Gotcha.
And I've learned even more. I mean, because this piece has been really, the people that's watching it are really vocal in their feelings about how they feel about how it's coming and who they're siding with. And so that's been really interesting. I've never experienced that before. So that's been really cool. And what I have learned is not defending the character. It gets really choppy when people start talking to you about the series and they get so intently personal about it that they're like pointing, and I get kind of sensitive about it. I'm like, and then I have to realize, but they're talking about the character and not you, Derek. So.
And see, indeed, Derek, the flack that you're getting, I thought that Keena was gonna get. Remember, Jackie? I was like,
yeah.
Hate Keena, she's greedy, but Josh is the one getting all the flack that I thought Keena was gonna get. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with this dude. He's a great husband.
Josh is getting it from polyamory, people who are polyamorous. Keena gets it from the small amount of people who are publicly commenting that are monogamous. So I mean, most of our audience has been people who are in the polyamory community. So they see all of Josh's quote unquote mistakes in their eyes. So, it's going to be, I'm really interested to see once people who are monogamous start watching, particularly women, how they will feel.
Right. That would be
about Keena.
My reaction to Josh my first reaction was definitely, oh, he did not just say that.
No,
but then, I'm watching with Lusty Guy, and I'm watching as research for this interview, and then I paused and said, in the hundreds of people that have come to me for support when their partner came to them and said, I want to be poly, that's exactly the kind of things that come out of their mouths. That's a very normal, natural, realistic reaction. So she should be depicting that. It's just kind of hard to watch. So
it's interesting. It's like, because when you initially say, I like to congratulate you for playing, such an asshole, I said, thank you,
Oh, it's way more fun.
I've learned that. That's what I've learned. I was like, oh, thank you. If that's your experience, because that's the thing, like, it's your experience, the individual experience from watching the show. That's what it's all about,
It's
and
true.
So when someone comes to me and says, oh, I hate what you did this, right? I understand that it's the character, and I go, oh, well, thank you. Well, I'm glad or I'm sorry or whatever. But I never try to. I've learned not to defend a character.
As an actor, really your job is to evoke the emotion, and with the good writing and the good acting, it's definitely spawned that. And I want to get to your campaign, but you had a comment, Jackie?
One thing that we've noticed is that people put Keena on a pedestal when she hasn't always been forthright with the truth, but she gets away with a lot of stuff with our audience. They're like, yeah, I know she didn't tell the truth, but it's okay because she tried.
Well, her character is a lot more compassionately written. So, yeah, you get a lot more insight, I feel, into her character than into Derek's. So season 1 is complete, and everybody should go out and watch Compersion, by the way. You are fundraising for season 2.
Yes.
How?
Yes, we are.
Okay, and one of the things we haven't talked about is that you guys have, listeners, you folks have seen web series, internet videos, and you know that generally it's a shoestring budget and the production values aren't very high. Well, take a look. Even at just the first episode, the production values on this are incredibly high. It's a little bit more like a movie than a web series. So that being said, how much money do we need to get you so that you can do season 2? Let's do this.
Listen, okay, so right now we have 6 days left in our campaign, and we've raised $12,687, and I'm trying to raise $65,000, which would give us 10 new episodes for season 2. And it's not a lot of money if we get enough people to contribute small donations. We need like 52 more thousand dollars.
Somebody can write one check.
So if we had 2,000 people give $25, we'd be good to go. It's those small donations, or 1,500 give 30, or give 5, give 10. But we really need people who, particularly the audience of the series, to invest, and people who want to see how this couple moves from monogamy to their lovely, lovely polyamory and hopefully to compersion, to really invest, because I'm not rich. And, I wanted to do the first season. I wanted to put enough energy, time, and resources in it to make it look good and to hire people who were amazing, like my lovely actors, because I really want to tell a well-crafted story about this journey. But I won't be able to do that next season. There's no way I could do it for free. And I would really love to get some people to help me, because Mama was wearing 7 hats, and I don't have energy to do that.
Well, and let's look at it this way. If everybody who downloaded one episode of Poly Weekly in the last month donated $1, you would be at your goal.
Oh, my Poly Weekly people. $1. $1.
There you go. So
I just want to take and it is a small donation. I did have a friend that I called, and I was talking to her, and she was like, I want to give some money, but I don't have a lot right now, and I'm like, okay, so what are you doing? Well, I want to give a big amount, so I'm gonna wait until no.
No.
Give you $25 now, and then when you want to give your $50 more later, go ahead and give your $50 more later, and I stopped talking to her.
Just go donate.
No, really, it's $1, it's $5, it's $10, it's $15. Like, everybody's not able to get $500. If you want to give $500, I will tap dance and celebrate for that. But it's really the small, like right now we have like 240 backers. We need 2,000 more backers in 6 days. Or a big check, like Jamie says. But, it's really, if you want to, this is the thing that I say over and over and over. If you want the programming, you have to support it, because we don't have a magic money genie that's going to come and rescue Compersion to put out another successful season. For what we have, we might be able to do 2 episodes, but that's about it. So the people who are interested in seeing more inclusive storytelling, who want to see diversity and poly representation. It's not a fairy tale, but I really have respect for my characters and their journey, so I will always deal with them appropriately and fairly. You know, I'm not trying to paint a negative side of polyamory, and nor am I trying to paint a positive side, but just a real human relationship and experience. So I can promise that, like, I'm not here to be exploitive. I love my characters, and I'm really committed to having at least 6 seasons of Compersion. It's our goal to do 20-minute episodes. We got 6 days to do 65,000. So, like the lovely Mink says, you got $1, give it, and I can give you the link.
Yes, and we'll include a link in the show notes at polyweekly.com so we can get out the generous holiday spirit. You get 6 days. I'm going to get this episode out as quickly as possible. It'll probably only be like 2 days by the time this episode airs. So we're going to see how many donations we can get in that time. Excellent. Jackie, Jamie, Derek, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy weekends and your busy schedules. I know what it's like to try and make a living as an actor / producer / all other things, especially with the day job. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and ideas and for putting yourself out there on screen, on camera for others to enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been a wonderful experience.
And thanks again to Jackie, Jamie, and Derek for joining me, taking time out of their weekends. I know what it's like to be a struggling actor. I have been one myself. And thank you so much for doing Compersion, the web series, and giving us some representation of people of color in poly, and for giving us an incredibly high craft and well-constructed web series to watch. If you happen to have $1 spare, 10 spare dollars, or 100 spare dollars this holiday season, I would encourage you, give whatever you can. And again, the Indiegogo campaign is only running for another couple of days at this point. Please do donate that so we can get season 2 of Compersion, because I can't wait to see it. And I want to give a shout out to our brand new Polyweekly Playmate. I don't know if it's okay to list this moniker because it's fairly distinctive, so I'm just going to call you L of S, our newest Playmate. You know who you are, and thank you for joining the Playmates. And thanks to all of you for listening. Your comments, your feedback, your emails, your voicemails, your reviews on iTunes, even when you disagree with us, you are what keeps this podcast going. You've helped keep it free for 11 years. So thank you to everyone who participated. You're an amazing community. We have never received one single piece of hate mail, if you can believe it, because you folks are awesome. And when you have an issue with anything that we say or do on the podcast, you write us and tell us in the nicest and most polite way humanly possible. We are just, I feel like we're a bastion of civility in this crazy world that we live in. So thank you. I really appreciate everything that you have done to keep Polyweekly going over the years. And if you do ever have questions, comments, or feedback, email polyweekly@gmail.com, call 802-505-POLY, or leave a comment on Facebook at facebook.com/polyweekly, or on Twitter at polyweekly or at cunningminx. Thanks for listening, and remember, it's not all about the sex. It's about the kinky Santa.